Ram Madhav to kindly come onto the dais. Dr. Ram Madhav is the member of the Governing Council of India Foundation. The speakers in this session are Ambassador NGUYEN of Vietnam. Welcome, sir, to the podium. And Professor SUNAINA Singh, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of NALANDA University. Over to you, Ram Madhavji, for the proceeds.
Hand mics, please. Dais par de do. Friends, this is the last panel session of the conference. We have got two eminent panelists today to talk to us on a very important facet of India-ASEAN relationship, namely the cultural and historic linkages between India and the ASEAN. So we will have our two panelists addressing us briefly as initial comments, followed by which I will open up the house both for your comments or your observations, your study on this topic, because obviously you may also have to share many of your many of your country-specific observations about this relationship, cultural, historic, civilization relationship. And also, of course, if you have any questions to put to our panelists, you can do that. As we all know, Southeast Asia, which has formed into this grouping of ASEAN some 50 plus years ago, has had linkages with India over millennia. In fact, there was a reference to a movie also, PS1. It talks about a kingdom in South India, southern part of India, Tamil Nadu, which had its linkages with many countries in the Indian Ocean region. Those days, they were all different kingdoms. Java was different. Sumatra was different. Today, it has been formed into Indonesia. Today, it is Malaysia. Similarly, on the eastern side, Thailand, Cambodia, all these countries. There has been a long-standing relationship, but one very important, significant aspect of this relationship is that it was not a relationship of a master and slave. It was not a relationship of one country dominating over the other, not a relationship of any military aggression, but a relationship of sharing of course, wealth, prosperity, but also culture, religion, values. This has been the very characteristic of this relationship over millennia. That is the reason why, while collectively all of us have had very bad experience of colonialism that had happened from countries in Europe, and we don't really admire that relationship that we had, as they, the colonial masters, we, the slaves. We admire this bond between India and Southeast Asia, India and our ASEAN group of countries, because this relationship was a different type of relationship, has been a different type of relationship. So to throw more light on this aspect, the cultural, historic linkages, I would like to call upon our first panelist, Professor SUNAINA Singh. She is the Vice Chancellor of Nalanda University, Nalanda University is a university in the North Indian state of Bihar. And this university is instituted with the support of many countries in ASEAN also, including countries like Singapore. Is Vietnam also a partner? Yeah, Vietnam, many countries. So all those countries in the region got together to start this university. It has students from many of these countries. It's a very ancient university, became dysfunctional in between. It has been revived through the efforts, collective efforts of the governments of many of our countries. So Professor Singh is the Vice Chancellor of that university. I invite her to share her thoughts initially, briefly for about 8-10 minutes, Professor SUNAINA Singh. You can do that from there also.
Thank you, Ram Madhavji, and namaskar and good afternoon to everyone. Good morning, rather. With the initial introduction of Ram Madhavji, let me throw light on the shared cultural values of East Asian countries. Ram Madhavji has rightly pointed out that there are many countries that have supported the re-establishment of Nalanda. But I will come to Nalanda a little later on, since we have collectively between India and ASEAN countries about over 700 youth as human capital for the growth of the world in future. So for me, it's a human resource, human capital that needs to take the right pathways. I think these past 2-3 days that you've been having extensive discussions have been in different directions of how to grow, how to formulate a new roadmap for the emerging world challenges. Now, that being said, let me look at the shared values, and I think the historical framework is point number one that we need to look at when we look at our shared ethos. People to people connect. And I thought the best example was just before this session, what Ram Madhavji did with all of you. I think that's also a brilliant example of how do we connect with each other, how do we learn about each other, in the present context, given the past, and then I would like to look at the cultural values that have molded, shaped our psyche over 2 millennia. Over 2,000 years, we've had the continuous history of relationship with ASEAN. And I think that has been very important example for the plurality of the world. The connection between ASEAN and India. I think we are a bedrock of plurality and how to build a new world on the basis of shared values. I think we are a prime example there. The third, I thought we need to look at the neotic ways of how do we build our future with the youth around. So I think it's very important to look at various examples. If we look at history, we have over 2,000 years of history where through trade and culture and education route, spirituality had grown. We were known as knowledge-based traditions. Spirituality that brought peace and harmony has been again a bedrock. And it's firmly believed, and I say this generally, that wherever Buddha traversed, seeds of knowledge sprouted. And this is across the ASEAN and the Southeast Asian countries. Today, Nalanda has students from over 30 countries, mostly from ASEAN belt, and 80% of students. It's a huge chunk. Where we have about 20% Indian students, but we have a lot of foreign students doing Buddhism or doing sustainable management or ecology and environment, looking at the climate challenges. Now, all this, we also look at the history of how we have dealt with life at that point of time. The third point that I wanted to highlight is how will we move forward with the new age technologies? I think the recent uh, event in Bogor, October 22, where the startups between ASEAN and India festival was held in Indonesia, I think that tells us a lot of how we can carve a niche for ourselves while connecting history, culture, shared ethos, and yet move forward for the postmodern world, postmodern world. I think we are looking at a new world that would be emerging with the leadership of the youth. Over 65% of youngsters in India alone. ASEAN, if you look at, you have the youth are over 45% of its population. I think this is a very significant move forward for the youth, how to frame oneself for the future roadmap, and how do we look at spirituality in today's terms. Nalanda stands for peace and harmony, the spiritual growth, how it was a knowledge tradition that brought monks from across the world, how the trade route was essential to develop education, develop spirituality, develop languages. Sanskrit and Pali played a very important role. And Sanskrit was the medium of instruction at Nalanda all those years back. And I'm talking about nearly 1600 years back, because 800 years of Nalanda's history of interdisciplinary education in spirituality. Then 800 years of gap when it was government and the East Asian countries took a collective decision to rebuild Nalanda. Today we are there. You should check us out on the website. There are some very innovative courses that are being taught. And we stand for peace, we stand for harmony. And how to build peace and harmony while we are technologically moving forward. How do we build sustainable management in every field and not just in technology? I think with these few initial comments, I think I will move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Singh. Friends, as Madam Vice Chancellor mentioned, Nalanda symbolizes that great historic, civilizational, cultural bonding between India and the Southeast Asian neighborhood. As she mentioned, it has been a very ancient university where people from all over the region used to come for education, education in religion, education in modern medicine, modern sciences. All sorts of education used to be imparted. In fact, the historic records say that there used to be an entrance test for Nalanda, which used to be called Dwarapalaka. The name of the test used to be Dwarapalaka. So thousands and thousands of students used to appear for the test, but only 10,000 used to get admission. Even with that number, Nalanda used to have thousands of students. Some 1500 years, 1000 years ago. It was demolished by Western invaders who came from West Asia in the 11th century. Until then, it was a major hub of learning, both material learning as well as spiritual learning, both about religious knowledge and about mundane, modern knowledge. Nalanda used to be the hub. That's how we two regions are linked. Education was one major link between Southeast Asia and India. Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Honorable Ambassador of Vietnam to India to please give his comments. Ambassador.
So Dr. Ram Mahan, the chair, the distinguished delegates from ASEAN and India, friends, we thank India for hosting the 4th ASEAN-India Youth Summit. As of now, it has been a very successful event, and I see everyone's smiles, the laughters, and on the issues of the day, has been discussed among the youth of ASEAN and India. So that is important. I am not an expert in the cultural issues, but I can share with you some of my point of view toward this issue. So last year, 2022, marked the 30th anniversary of ASEAN and India partnership, and both sides have elevated our partnership to a comprehensive strategic level. In the joint statement, ASEAN and India committed to enhancing exchanges and cooperation in the areas of culture, education, media, academia, and to further expanding the existing cooperation under initiatives such as ASEAN-India Youth Summit, and continue to work on activities such as Cultural Heritage List. So with deep and cultural Indian imprints were visible in many kingdoms. In Southeast Asia, you will see. And culture is the key to ASEAN-India partnership. India and Southeast Asia are home to 1.8 billion people. Both share land and maritime boundaries to each other. India's relations with ASEAN have grown from strength to strength over time, and share historical ties, culture, and knowledge have underpinned India's sustained interaction with Southeast Asia. Our culture and values are closely related, which is clear from history of civilizational contact. The process of acculturation of India and Southeast Asia began in ancient times from the 3rd century onward. The exchange via trade and influence of Sanskrit and Indian epics in Southeast Asia and technological innovation between the two regions are well documented. The commonalities between India and Southeast Asia provide a platform for building synergy among the countries in the region. India is home to one of the world's earliest known civilizations, and today is one of the most densely populated regions on the planet. Despite the background of ethnic, linguistic, and political diversity, the people of the sub-region are unified by a common cultural and ethical outlook. A wealth of Asian texture, literature, and Sanskrit, Prakrit, and regional languages is a major unifying factor. So as adjacent regions, South Asia and Southeast Asia have a deep cultural links since ancient time, with established rules for the movement of goods and services along with the people. The transboundary connection has facilitated intersection of ideas, art, and sciences. Indeed, both continental and maritime routes were used with very efficacy over the past century. Cultural and commercial interaction between India and Southeast Asian countries, which span a period of nearly 15 centuries, is a vivid illustration of India's relation with Southeast Asia at its best. India's influences are well pervasive in Southeast Asia: polity, language, mythology, religion, art, dance, and music. All have been molded and enriched as the result of contact with India. So we have seen the Indian imprints in many kingdoms of Southeast Asia from the 1st century, such as Funan, Champa, Dvaravati, Sri Kshetra, Sri Vajaya, Angkor, Salandras, Pagan, Kediri, Sahasari, Sukhothai, Ayutthaya, and Majapahit, etc. Impressed by strong Indian cultural footprint in Southeast Asia, the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, described that if you want to know the height of old Indian art has reached, you will have to go out of India for that purpose. You will have to go to Java and other places because it reached perhaps greater heights there than even in India. So in Cambodia and Thailand, Indonesia, or Myanmar today, many symbolic remnants of Indian influence are clearly visible in their arts, cultures, and civilization. And Temple of Angkor Wat, Pegwan, Borobudur, and Prambanan are the live evidence of the deep penetration of Indian art and architecture forms in famous Southeast Asian monuments. And you also know that Buddhism, for instance, and Hinduism are spread across the region. In Vietnam and other countries in Southeast Asia, Buddhism has been very close linked to one another. From India, and then it go through to Southeast Asia, to Vietnam, and to Indonesia as well. So we've seen a lot of linkages, not only culture, but also in religious linkages. So Vietnam and India have close cultural ties and many shared values. And the relationship between the two countries have been cultivated by generations of leaders and people. And I have to tell you, the cultural linkages, the value that we share, not only between Vietnam and India, but also Southeast Asian countries and India, are the great assets for us to build our partnership over the years. And you know, we appreciate the Indian support to maintain, to restore all the temples, the monuments that Vietnam and other Southeast Asian have. You have the expertise. So that is the great effort that India has been doing, and we appreciate for that. India has been providing technical assistance of $2.25 million for conservation and restoration of ancient Chan monuments at the World Heritage Sites of Mission in Quang Nam province of Vietnam, showcasing the deep civilizational connection between the two countries. And these cultural influences have greater implication for Vietnam and India relations in particular, and also the wider Vietnam and Southeast Asia in general. So friends, distinguished delegates, the cultural linkages and commonalities is the precious success of ASEAN-India partnerships. At the end of the day, it's the people of ASEAN and India who lay the foundation of ASEAN and India partnership. And you know, the more we share the values, the more we will have the understanding of the region of the world that we want to build. So it's easier for us to share the values, and we join the efforts to build the region and the world with our imagination, with our values that we share. So that is important. So that is why the government of ASEAN, the government of India, are working very hard to strengthen the linkages, the cultural linkages, the people-to-people linkages, to build the bond between our countries, between ASEAN countries and India. And over the years, you've seen, last year it marked the 30th anniversary of ASEAN-India. We have done a lot of activity, joint activities, to boost cultural exchanges. So many cultural activity has been done last year, and we will continue to do that. And the ASEAN Youth Summit is one of the events that contribute meaningful, greatly to the understanding of the people to people of ASEAN and India, especially the youth of ASEAN and India. And I am very impressed by the saying that you have just now said, that the youth is the power of the present and the hope of the future. So I hope that with the what we are sharing those last few days, the values, the cultural values, so that we will be able to together to build the region, the world with the value that we share. So we will join hands in building our region and the world a better place. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. That was an excellent ideation of this whole idea of cultural integration between India and the Southeast Asian neighborhood, which we also call as ASEAN group of countries. As Honorable Ambassador rightly pointed out, first went Hinduism to most parts of this world, ASEAN world. Then went Buddhism. In many countries, it is a two-layered relationship, whether it is Vietnam or Cambodia or Laopedia or Thailand, Myanmar. It's a two-layered relationship, the Hindu-Buddhist cultural integration. Then in some parts like Indonesia, Malaysia, went Islam, but a different version of Islam. And because it also was built over these two layers of Hinduism and Buddhism, we find a very syncretic Islam in Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, and all these parts of the world, which is very different from some tenets of Islam that we find elsewhere. So we have very strong cultural, civilizational linkages that have influenced our religions also, as an extension of our day-to-day life also. For those who are interested to know more historical facts about it, there is a very famous book by a French scholar, Georges Codes. It's called Indianized States of Southeast Asia. By Indianized, it doesn't mean any Indian colonialism. It's about how ideas, culture, values traveled from India to many of these parts of the world. A very fascinating study. It's actually a study of many of the historical monuments and all in Southeast Asian region. Friends, our two panelists have presented beautifully, but taking very little time. That gives all of you ample opportunity to interact with them. So I'm not asking you to only ask questions. You are free to make observations from your knowledge about your country. So we have ample time. We will go ahead. We will have 3-4 people first comment. Then we will come back to the panelists. We'll start from here. Yes. Use the mic.
Okay. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much, the honorable panelists. My name is Fikri Al-Hafid and I'm from Indonesia. So my question is related to the theme actually, so to strengthen the Indo-Pacific relationship and through these topics, which is cultural, right? And then I believe we shared similarities, commonalities between India and 10 ASEAN nations.
Speak into the mic.
So, okay, thank you. Okay, so I believe we share commonalities between 10 ASEAN nations and also India, right? Whether it be food, structures, spices, and so on and so forth. But honorable panelists, I believe that we are welcoming a new country to ASEAN, right? Albeit only as observer, Timor-Leste. And my question is, how does ASEAN India welcomes Timor-Leste? Even though the commonalities is very minimum between the 10 ASEAN nations and also India. Thank you very much.
Okay. Oh yeah, go ahead. We will finish first row, then come to second row. Yeah.
Thank you so much. My name is Meryl Saragi. I'm from Indonesia. It's an amazing session that we had here in the fourth ASEAN India New Summit. Amazing speakers, delegations, and all the breakout session, the plenary session. Earlier, in the previous plenary session, I mentioned that one of the way to strengthen the relationship between ASEAN and India is through a student exchange maybe or internship program for us to transfer the knowledge and also the culture and everything. After my question or my suggestion is, after this summit, what kind of affirmative action that we can do to share cultural ethos and promotion of people-to-people ties? I know when we go back to our country, we will be the ambassadors to our country to promote this partnership and also connectivity. But I would like to ask about maybe the follow-up action program or the affirmative action and programs after the summit that we can implement it in our home country. Thank you.
Okay, anybody in the front row? Brunei? Yeah. Okay, you go ahead. Yeah.
I'm Nuka from Indonesia, sir. My question to Ms. Sunaina: how the academic or education and government sector minimize women deprivation? Minimizing women deprivation level in ASEAN and India to empower women to live with dignity and contribute as equal to shared culture value.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Muskan Saxena from India. My question is that as India and ASEAN have a strong convergence on Indo-Pacific and combating many threats, So one of the challenges is breaking like the initiatives that breaking the what can be the initiatives and what would you suggest youth from all these countries to do in terms of breaking these silos between ASEAN and India?
Okay, let's just ask the panelists if they have to say anything. Yeah, briefly, yeah. Or you also if you have
Well,
anything.
thank you. Yeah. A couple of things. This has been an interesting questions that I see from the audience here, from the youth of ASEAN and India belt. One of the question was on what are the exchanges? How do we, enhance the connectivity between ASEAN and India? Let me tell you about a few examples that I did at Nalanda. One is to create an ASEAN-India network of universities, which is about joint projects, collaborative research. It's about faculty exchange, student exchange. This gives opportunity to students and faculty and researchers from the 10 ASEAN countries to move to any part of India to take up research or to get into innovative market field in India. This is a very significant way of moving forward because we are looking at sustainability, we are looking at management. When we talk about academics and intellectual capital, we need to develop, connectivity between ASEAN countries and India. So what I have done is I've taken 10 top institutions from India to begin with and 10 from ASEAN, and we are connecting on that. So that's at one level. The other thing that I have done is we had about 3 fellowships from ASEAN countries when I joined there. Today I have increased it to 50 scholarships, fully funded Government of India, MEA scholarships for students from ASEAN countries to study at Nalanda. It's a huge boost from this year. And we have a number of students from all the ASEAN countries at Nalanda. Well, there was one question on minimizing or how do we minimize the women representation or maximize rather, women representation across. I think this is very significant as a woman vice chancellor, head of the institution, because I've been looking at the participation of young girls and women in different fields. And you would notice today the admission rate, 80% of students are girl students. So there is a rise in the admission status, but also if you look at the startups, I think there are many young women who are embarking on new avenues and trying to find what would be useful for the nations to come together and to develop a new ethos of sustainability or development. I think that's where I would encourage youngsters, particularly young women, to look at different professions, not just the education, but move beyond research and look at how do you contribute to your own country's development. And that is possible once you are backed with good knowledge tradition, good research, and then you could embark on, how do we get into new areas of startups. The startup festival in Bogor, I thought that was very significant. And there were the number of women representation there was also encouraging. I think this needs to be looked into because I think it's important for us to carve a roadmap for future. How do the youth contribute to the development of its nations is one. How do they bring together nations? The people to people connect. How do they come on a level playing field and try to embark on a new pathway, building a new pathway? I think that is very significant. That being said, I would just like to briefly comment on Dwarpalak that you mentioned. Yeah. I'll just take 2 seconds. at Nalanda, I think that was the entrance system. You know, when students came to Nalanda in those ancient times, they had to actually satisfy the Dwarpal, or today we call, this is the new entrance system that we have now. But earlier it was the gatekeeper who would assess the capability and knowledge and only then allow. I think that also is important because we're looking at competencies. How do we build our competencies? How do we bring knowledge in the forefront and move forward into progress areas? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Ambassador?
So thank you very much for the questions. I will take the question with the what the recommendation, or how do you think about all the measures that strengthen the people-to-people connectivity? So I think that will have to go with the strengthening the physical connectivity. That is so important. So important. So we talk about the air connectivity. We talk about maritime connectivity, also land connectivities, all types of connectivity. The idea is to make it easier for people to come from one country to another. So we should have more flights. We should have better connection on land and other form of transportation among ASEAN countries and India. So that is number one. So the initiative that ASEAN India is working now with the land connectivity is so important. But we also have to push and make it and work harder to increase the air connectivity. That's number one. Number two is the government support is so important. So that requires resources and also the efforts from the government of ASEAN and India to formulate the programs, the initiative, so that the youth of ASEAN and the youth of India can get together, and the people of ASEAN and India can get together and share the values and share the understanding. And finally, it is the eagerness of the people who want to get to know to each other and how to make business, how to work with one another for the benefits of the country and for the benefits of the people. So that is the first question I want to address. And the question on how ASEAN welcome Timor-Leste. So the question has been, ASEAN countries has been working very hard with Timor-Leste over the years. The last years, ASEAN has recognized and welcomed Timor-Leste to ASEAN. On the plan for us for Timor-Leste to join ASEAN. In the past years, ASEAN has formed teams to work on each and every pillar: political security, economic, cultural, and people-to-people exchange, to see what the level of integration of Timor-Leste, what the capability of Timor-Leste to join ASEAN. So you just mentioned that the values or the cultural values that we share with Timor-Leste is minimum. For that, we are not very sure. We have to check that. But certainly, ASEAN is there to support Timor-Leste to join ASEAN in the end of the day, and to together to contribute to ASEAN as the community. And we look forward to Timor-Leste to join ASEAN, to contribute in each and every pillar: political security, economic, and the cultural and people-to-people exchange as well.
Thank you, Master. Second and third rows. Anybody has a comment? Yeah, we will start with her. Yeah, second row. Yes, go ahead.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm Olivia from Malaysia. So I just have a simple question because I want to understand more about this matter. So my question is to Professor SUNAINA. So I want to know what is the difference between Indianization and Hinduism, because some of the India historians claim that Malaysia, Indonesia, and some part of other ASEAN countries are under Indianizations. So I would like to know your point of view for this matter. Thank you.
Anybody else in the second, third rows? Yeah, third row. Yeah, second row. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you.
Okay. Test. Can you hear me now?
Oh, 1 second. I'm just asking this girl here.
Oh, okay.
In the second. Then we will come to you. Yeah. Mic bhi do yaar. Hand mic do na. You have to. Oh, yeah. Hand mic do.
Okay, good morning. We know that India and Southeast Asia share the same geographical and cultural region, and Southeast Asia and India have long been connected culture and historical by the way of the religions, language, culture, and civilization. And India has a strong tie to the Southeast Asia than any nation. My question is that how to build and strengthening more relation between the Indian people and Khmer people and other people in the Southeast Asia, relatable to the cultural. And one more question, how does Indian promote the people capital? Thank you.
People what?
Human capital.
Human capital.
Yes, yes,
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now, sir?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Calvin. I'm from Indonesia. I'm very excited with ASEAN and India because for me, ASEAN and India is a natural partner. Our relationship has been gone beyond 30 years of our former relationship. However, why our trade remains low, particularly with the ASEAN maritime countries. For instance, with Indonesia, our trade's been only hovering 15 billion, with the Philippines, 2 billion and less a billion with the Bruneian. And regarding to the connectivity, I'm very optimistic with the trilateral highway, but it's been there since 2002. And it's not yet connected along the way, right? It's been 20 years. So I'm wondering what are the lingering challenges and how we excite the business community where in combined we have almost 2 billion economic size. So I just want to try in a very candid and honest questions. Thank you.
Yes. Third row here. Yeah, this lady. Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead. From India. Yes.
Hello, my name is Ayushi and I'm from India. My question is regarding the latest development wherein India agreed to cooperate for the restoration of the Angkor Wat temple in Cambodia. I want to ask what is the scope of India's collaboration on the restoration of other historical sites in the other countries of ASEAN region, and how would it contribute to engaging with encouraging more cultural relations and bringing the historical links in the present consciousness of the people? And what is your opinion on India taking such steps in engaging with the ASEAN countries? Thank you.
Okay. Ma'am? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for those questions. I think I'll start with the last one. Restoration of Angkor Wat. I think this is a very welcome decision by India. One needs to understand that the architecture of the temple culture that has been part of our shared history and civilization for over 2,000 years, the temple architecture has played a significant role. And contributing to restoration of temples, this could be the first, but there are many other architectural monuments that need to be maintained, and contribution of India will continue because India has already said that they would support the ASEAN development. And I think where cultural values are concerned, shaping the mindset is concerned, I think spirituality has played a significant role in bringing us all together. I think this is a very welcome decision. I would, and this will encourage linkages further, because just imagine youngsters going to study architecture there is also a significant move in trying to understand cultures and also trying to find resonance in Indian temples and see, because it's the patronage of different kings have brought up different temple cultures. And I think linkages are part of our growth. And in whichever direction we make a move at the beginning, I think it's going to be very significant and meaningful for future. The other my Indonesian friend spoke about natural partners and what are the challenges, if I have understood you correctly, for future. Well, challenges are always opportunities, and we all know that. The challenges are, how do we come together to build a borderless world, a global ethos? How do we contribute to the West and to the Europe the tradition of peace and harmony that has been inbuilt in our own ethos? I think that's a challenge, and I think that's where I would want the young leaders to play an important role in major decision making, of the countries, their own nations, so that they could formulate a vision. I think that's where policy makers need to take inputs from the youth. I think you people have been doing exceedingly well. Now that you've come together, platforms such as India Foundation, which brings together the youth from ASEAN countries, it's a magnificent initiative. I think this will give us an idea about what are the strong points of each country and how do we contribute to the well-being of the nations together. So the many challenges, it could be innovation could be a challenge, and we could look at innovation in different sectors, therefore, be it education, be it architecture, be it art, music, how do we connect? How do we innovate it further? Now, innovation where music and culture is concerned is how to come together. That is where innovation in thinking is required. That's a very brief answer. The other two questions maybe I'll take later.
So thank you. The question with regard to the ASEAN, India, how to excite the businesses, I just want to look into that aspect. We come back to the question of connectivity and the realization of the opportunities that ASEAN country and India can present to one another. So with connectivity, I have mentioned earlier, we should make it easier for the people and for the goods and services to move freely, to make it easier for the goods and services to move from one country to another. And beside that, right now the ASEAN and India trade regulated by the ASEAN and India Free Trade Agreement, ITGA. So right now, two sides are reviewing, and we look forward to both sides to come up with the revision in the ITGA, so that we will make it easier for the goods and services to move to one another countries. But then the promotion of business is so important. That is the business, the people need to know each and every country what is good, what is the opportunities there. So ASEAN countries and India, I think, are eagerly and working very hard to promote each country to the others, so that we can know the opportunities. So I think if we can come up with those, we can come up with solution for those issues. I think the relationship, the trade cooperation will, and investment cooperation will increase remarkably. I recognize on your point that right now the level of trade between ASEAN and India is low. Even India and ASEAN as the group, or India and individual ASEAN countries. For instance, for Vietnam, even though this year we achieved 15 billion US dollar in trade turnover, but it's just take about 2% of Vietnam's total trade turnover. And it is just a small fraction of the total trade turnover that India has with other countries in the world. So I mentioned this is to say that the potential is huge. There's a lot of potential for us to tap in order to increase the business opportunity for the both sides, for the benefits of the business community and for the people.
Thank you, Ambassador. Yes, as the Ambassador mentioned, the trade between ASEAN and India is very strong. It is growing very fast. It has already crossed $90 billion. And remember, ASEAN is the 4th largest trade partner for India. And we are hoping that very soon we will cross 100 billion mark and become much bigger trade partners very soon. So our trade is growing. It will grow further. Just 30 seconds about Indianization. There is no Indianization today. It was only a historical aspect. In the long past history, lots of ideas traveled from India, only ideas. Lot of religious ideas traveled from India, spiritual ideas traveled from India. That became the bedrock of the way of life in many of the ASEAN countries. Today, even India wants some of those ideas back. For example, we want the Islamic ideas of Indonesia to come and influence Muslims in India. Because there is a different type of Islam that is practiced. Bhinnato, what is that? Your motto. Your unity in diversity is the motto of Indonesia. Bhinnaka. So those ideas should be learned by India also. So Indianization, no current practice, no current idea of Indianization, but in history, there were that idea flows happened. That is sometimes called Indianization. It's not about colonization. We'll just take 3 questions from the backbenchers. One of you, not 2 Indians, one of you decide between you 2.
Sir, second row. Only one sentence.
Raise your hand.
Yes.
Okay, quickly. One question, then we go to one of the ladies, Bhakti or whoever you decide, and you go here. 3.
Yeah, this is Yogi. What's the most reliable way to pay off debt? And how to improve our credit rating?
Okay. Who is taking from between you 2? Quickly. Bhakti, quickly.
So my question is, how can we leverage
Speak into the mic.
How can we leverage ASEAN and India's cultural relations for sustainable social and economic development?
Okay. Here, gentleman, yes. You, the flag, yes.
Hello, sir. My name is Hisham. I'm from Malaysia. I want to ask Mr. Ambassador Nguyen Tanhai. Sir, we are always voice up the importance to strengthening regional ties, but each of us has our own national interests and certainly can't tolerate with that. And what is your opinion to overcome this matter through ASEAN cultural ethos? Thank you, sir.
This girl in 3rd row, yes. Yeah, yourself, yeah.
Hello, I'm from Vietnam. Okay, throughout your speeches, you mentioned a lot about the significance of cultural similarities, cultural linkages, and I just want to emphasize more on the differences. Like, how do we make use of cultural differences to promote the relations between ASEAN and India? And how do we eliminate misconceptions? And how do we realize unity in diversity, as you just mentioned? Thank you.
Great, good observation. Okay. You can make observations, you don't have to ask questions. Yeah, 1, 2, and 3, quickly. Yeah, go ahead. 2nd row, yes. I thought you have already asked a question, no? No? Yes? Not, okay, go ahead.
Hello. Good afternoon, panelists. My name is Suthevi from Cambodia. So I'm quite excited about the bilateral highways. I believe that when it finishes, it will boost the connectivity. And my question is, when it is finished, what will be the Indian priority in terms of the cultural exchange? Thank you.
Indian priority, yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Indonesia, yes.
Okay, thank you, madam, and honorable speakers. My name is Hazmi. I'm from Indonesia. I want to ask this question to Madam SUNAINA Singh. So we were talking about a shared cultural and cultural heritage and of a lot of commonalities. I know it's true, but we must not close our eyes that even in within our region, we are still trying to claim each other's cultural products. Like my friend here in Malaysia, I was claiming his batik. Just kidding. Okay, there is a lot of phenomenon like that, not even here, but maybe in the internet. So what do you think is the strategy of India? Let's say we share our own roots from Indian culture to eradicate this kind of phenomenon, and how to make us brothers so we can accept each other's cultural products.
Thank you. Last. Yes, go ahead. You, this girl, yes.
Hello, sir. So I'm from Cambodia. So I want to ask you two questions. Like
One question, yeah.
only one.
Ah.
Okay. Okay. For the Indian culture, it means affect on the relation of the Asian. So I want to ask you about the Asian and Indian connectivity people by people was if the religion is divided. So how? Thank you.
We could not get you correctly. Huh? What did you mean by that? If the relation is?
I want to ask you, like, if religion divide, so how and the connectivity people by, I mean the ways that we connecting people.
If we are separated, if we have any problem, you mean?
I mean like if the religion divide.
Religion divide.
Yeah.
How do we? Okay. All right. So we will end there. We can have interaction later, but let us hear from both the panelists. Yes, Sunaina, briefly.
How do we bridge I'll take the last question first, and then the cultural ties. There are 2 or 3 questions. I think the best way to bridge the religious divide is to an effort to understand the primary ethos of every religion, because the very word religion means coming together. Look at the positive side of religion. Does not divide, it only unites. So how do we focus on the uniting factors? How do we look at religion which should enhance the nobility in man? How does it elevate man in different ways? I think we need to learn to metamorphosize into individuals who can bring together others, bring every nation together. So that's something that each one of us, with a syncretic culture and plurality as being inbuilt in ASEAN and Indian region, I think it's easier. And we are a prime example of plurality for the entire world to learn from. I think that is one. How do we leverage cultural ties? I think, and also the cultural products, these are things that can be done. The youth need to come forward and identify areas, be it the cuisine, be it the industry, be it garments, be it trade. How do we look at different ways of innovating our culture and projecting it to the other nations? I think this can be done through trade and management platforms of different countries. I think yesterday the government, the Ministry of Information released a G20 document where they're saying that how the world needs to come together when health tech is concerned, where culture tech is concerned. They're looking at how do you build technologies around a lot of things, that is very important so that we can move forward. These brief comments?
I just want to have a brief comment on the religions issues. I think all religions encourage people to do good deed, to contribute and to make good things to other people and to build a better place for all of us. So I think I agree with her that we should concentrate on the commonalities and on the good things that religions have. That is one thing. Another question with regards on the different national interests that we have among the countries. I think even though we are different countries, we have different national interests, but we share the common interest, that is peace security and prosperity for all. And we all have the interest in building a regional order that is based on international law and the UN Charter. And even if we have a different national interest, we should resolve it through dialogue, through talk. By doing so, we will come up with outcomes. And in the past, we already have so many different difficult issues, but through the peaceful means, through the dialogue, we are able to resolve it. You all have the example, I don't have to name it, but through dialogue, we will be able to solve everything. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, our panelists, and thanks to all the very inquisitive participants who have put lots of questions. Many more also wanted to ask questions, but you can interact with our panelists later. Only one thing we remember, this is about how culture can play an important role in strengthening our bonds. This session is about that. Trade, other issues we discussed earlier. Culture is one very important tool, instrument for us to bring our two peoples closer, people of ASEAN and people of India. Bhagavan Buddha brings you closer to Bharat, closer to India, because it is here that Buddha attained his Buddhahood at Bodh Gaya. Similarly, an Angkor Wat, a Borobudur will bring us closer to your countries. A Champa region in Vietnam will bring us closer to Vietnam. So our culture, our religion, they connect us. We should use them rather than reject them or rather than ignore them. We should use them also to bring each other closer. From my side, I tell you one initiative that we are taking. Such initiatives you also should take. Like now we are going to start one Bali Yatra this year. This Bali Yatra is a historic yatra which is remembered even to this day in eastern Indian state of Orissa. The Kalinga Empire. From there, sailors went from there to Sri Lanka, onwards to Borneo, onwards to Java, onwards to other parts of what is called Indonesia today. So they used to sail by boats, taking lots of vegetables, lots of spices, lots of trade used to happen. Along with trade, prosperity was also transferred to those countries, then values were transferred. So we are undertaking a yatra to all these countries. From India, Buddhist monks, Hindu sailors, and youngsters like you will travel to all these countries. Welcome them, connect with them. Such cultural initiatives also will strengthen the bonds between our two countries. Friends, thank you. It's a wide area. We should really exploit it so that we two countries can, we two regions can become much more closer and our bonds will become further strengthened. I announce the closure of this session here. Request our organizers to conduct these formalities of felicitation.
Thank you, sir, for chairing that session. I now request you to kindly felicitate the speakers.
Friends, we have 3 country presentations remaining. We will start with, ready, right? All the countries? We will start with Malaysia. Come, the Malaysian presenters. Their presentation is ready? PowerPoint? Ready? Yes. Come fast. Malaysia, truly Asia, right? Come. Come fast. Eight minutes, huh? Fast.
Testing.
That's mine. Okay.
Salam sejahtera and good afternoon. I am Mogesh.
I'm Olivia. We are from Malaysia.
Right. Oh, wow. Actually, it feels very different standing up here. So anyway, how are we doing today? Good, awesome. All right. So how many of you have been to Malaysia? Cool. Wow. Okay. Now, to those who have not been to Malaysia, we're gonna quickly put up a video, and hopefully towards the end, you might have a reason to visit Malaysia soon, right? So sit back, relax, and enjoy. We will meet again after the video.
What is the duration of your video?
It's just 1 minute.
Okay, good. Go ahead. You stay there.
Yeah.
Video quickly.
You will love Malaysia now and ever. Different races everywhere. The soul of Asia is surely here. This beautiful Malaysia. Truly.
There you go. Hello again. So first and foremost, we are super grateful to be here. We think this is an excellent opportunity, to create powerful network among, with all of you from different ASEAN member states, and of course, our intention here, our main objective, our goal here is to strengthen ASEAN-India diplomatic relation. And it's just been 3 years, 3 days that we've been here, and we're already loving this whole place, this whole country, India, right? Now let's get into something a little bit more technical, but I think this is extremely important. Now, before we go even further, now this is Team Malaysia, and we're very happy to represent our country here. Next slide, please. Right, okay. So we as a Malaysian team have put forth some ideas and perspectives as to what ASEAN means to us, how Malaysia is important to ASEAN, how India can work together with ASEAN member states, especially in the perspectives of in the context where Malaysia comes into the scene, and how we can contribute together, especially towards working together in addressing some shared challenges. Now, before we dive deeper into the presentation, a quick fact check. How many of you know who are the founding members of ASEAN? Okay, let's try to get a few hands. I
see someone raise hand from the middle. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Yes.
So it's Bangkok, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia.
Cool. Okay, perfect. Now you can claim your gift later from Malaysian team. We prepared something for you. Okay, great. So I'm sure you all know that Malaysia, we just had our general election, and we've just got a new government, and it's now headed by Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim. And of course, he has reiterated the importance of ASEAN to Malaysia, especially in this geopolitical context. And we see this with the relationship that we have within the region. And Malaysia has been playing a pivotal role since the very beginning. In contributing to the overall development and progress of ASEAN. Now, very quickly, I'll pass the stage to my colleague Olivia to speak on the ASEAN, Malaysia, and India relationship.
Okay, so I just go quickly for this part because we have very important point after this. So I would go to the Malaysia-ASEAN relationship. What is Malaysian role in ASEAN? So basically, Malaysia is a founding member of ASEAN, and ASEAN is our highest strategic priorities and a cornerstone of Malaysia foreign policy. Next slide. Okay, as you can see here, Malaysia aligned itself to the ASEAN outlook in the Indo-Pacific, or known as AIOP. Basically, this aim to defend its centrality through inclusive partnership to promote the greater strategic trust into the regions. So as you can see here, Malaysia play an important role actually in the developments and progress of ASEAN. Basically, we're playing a vital part in establishing the ASEAN Charter, the foundation of ASEAN Charter, which present the lawful character of ASEAN. So as you can see here, the declarations of establishments of the ASEAN Charter took place during the 11th summit in Kuala Lumpur. This is in 2005. And the other one would be in 27 ASEAN Summit, which also happened in Kuala Lumpur in 2015, where the declarations of establishments on the ASEAN community took place. And in ASEAN pursuit for a zone of peace, freedom and neutrality, or better known as ZOPFAN, during the Cold War, at intense times of superpower rivalry in Southeast Asia. So Malaysia was the first country to propose the policy of neutralizations in 1970. So for your information, Malaysia will assume ASEAN chairmanship again in 2025. And as we all may know, our neighbor, Indonesia, will chair this year ASEAN. So we, from Malaysia, wholeheartedly support it and looking forward to work with Indonesia to make sure this meeting is successful. So move to the Malaysia-India relationship. So one of our oldest bilateral relationship, Malaysia and India just celebrated 65 years of tie is in 2022. So I believe that most of you guys know about this. So the Malaysia-India relationship is not only about civilizational and cultural relationship, but we're actually bound by the deep people-to-people ties, also vibrant economic relationship, and also dynamic political relationship. So Malaysia and India also share membership in a number of multilateral framework, primarily the Indians Ocean Rim Associations, or we call it IORA, also non-aligned movement. So in 2011, India and Malaysia signed a landmark free trade agreement, the Malaysia-India Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, better known as MySICA, which came into force in July that year. I believe that some of you guys just know about MySICA. Actually the new agreements came into force during the 2011. And last but not least, economic, defense and security and education cooperation form the basis of bilateral relationship. So now I would like to pass the floor back to my partner.
Right. Thank you very much, Olivia. Now, seeing how important Malaysia is to ASEAN and India, we'd like to share some basic ideas as to how we can enhance ASEAN-India cooperation in the Indo-Pacific context. And it's pivotal to acknowledge that in this region we have several shared challenges, and one that I'd like to give a special attention to would be climate change, disaster risk reduction, adaptation, and mitigation. Now, climate change, we know that it's a leading cause of natural disasters in the region. And for so long, we have been saying that climate change is coming, but it's actually happening now. And in fact, it's an existential threat, right? So we acknowledge that climate change is one of the ASEAN's regional priorities, and we'd like to propose to put an emphasis on fostering stronger partnerships in implementing climate change and adaptation and mitigation strategies to address this issue, particularly focusing at facilitating transfer of knowledge and technology, securing funds to manage disaster risk, and of course to build local capacities, especially empowering grassroots level communities. And it's very important to note that for Malaysia, we only contribute less than 0.7% of total global emissions. However, we have set a strong goal to reach carbon neutrality as early as 2050. Now, at the ASEAN level, seeing how Thank you. Seeing how over the last few months, in addition to COVID-19, many countries, including Malaysia, has experienced extreme weathers, severe floods, causing a huge impact on the livelihoods of the people, especially the marginalized communities, including us, the children and youth, right? And what we'd like to focus here is that we see this as an opportunity to deeper ASEAN-India cooperation to address this through the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, CDRI, which none of the member states of ASEAN is part of. And it is extremely critical to start establishing this cooperation within the ASEAN framework and existing mechanisms like ASEAN Vision on Disaster Management 2025. Now, like I mentioned earlier, COVID-19 resulted in new obstacles and widening of gaps and inequalities. One of the key priorities in efforts to recover from the damaging impacts of COVID-19, we Malaysia have placed food security as one of our top priorities, and especially focusing on food laws and future-proofing of regional and global food supply chains. And we believe this is a shared priority for the rest of ASEAN member states and India as well. And especially now that we're in India, India has taken a commendable effort by designating this year as an International Year of Millets. And we think this is a great opportunity to enhance synergy between ASEAN and India. So these are some of our thoughts, and we'll be very happy to discuss these ideas and hear from all of you over the next one day that we have left and beyond, of course. And feel free to reach out to us. We're just here. We're very friendly people. And thank you very much for this opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. Myanmar, followed by Philippines. Both should be ready. First, Myanmar. Quickly. Philippines should be ready immediately after that.
Mingalava. Okay. Our honorable distinguished guest, or the delegate from ASEAN and India country, good afternoon to you all. As you see, I'm so shocking, standing in front of a big group. First of all, I just want to talk about. Just a second. Yes, there are 8 delegates. As you have known that there are 8 delegates coming from Myanmar. Yes, on behalf of all the delegates, I just want to take this opportunity to express our heartfelt thanks to the India Foundation, ASEAN Foundation, and Ministry of External Affairs, and all of the people who are participating to organize this summit, and also for giving such a chance to participate this special summit. Yes. Let me introduce first. My name is A.A. Baik. I'm an assistant director working at Ministry of Investment and Foreign Economic Relations. Daniel also,
I am NGUYEN, and I'm from the private sector. So we're going to just do a short presentation. It's not going to take long. We have a 45-second video that we want to show. So let's start.
I just want to call all of you to our beautiful land. Please enjoy video first. That's long, 45 seconds only. Yeah. Please,
yes.
Video. Start.
Thank you. Sorry, we have to put the song, repeat it because we cut down it to 45 seconds. So, yeah.
Before presentation, I just want to ask for to give applause to us and to our country. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to start the presentation with the name of my country. Please, first slide. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, my country is officially named the Republic of the Union of Myanmar. We officially named it since 1989. Yes, next. Okay, sorry, I'm feeling so excited. Sorry for. Thank you. I got your encouragement. Thank you so much. And how can I start it? Yes. As you have seen, that Myanmar is one of the country which is located in the Southeast Asian country, and it poses, as you see, 55 million people are living together. I think that another more population is not the problem. And most of the people are Buddhism. Also, it has the Muslim, Christian, and other religions are living together peacefully. Yes. Please next. This is the flag of our country. As you have seen, it is horizontal, tricolor of horizontal triune. Yellow, green, and red is charged with the white, 5 white star in the center of the flag. It has the meaning, like the other country, our flag has the meaning, and it has the solidarity, peace, and serenity, and also the successiveness, respectively. Yes, I think that the flag of every country has the meaningful. I have already mentioned that Myanmar is located in one of the Southeast Asian country. Our country is bordering with, yes, sorry. Okay, this picture is, in this picture you can see that our country is neighboring with India and Bangladesh to the northwest, China to the northeast, Laos and Thailand to the east and southeast, and Myanmar and by the Bay of Bengal to east, south, and southeast of my country. Yes, now my country is moving with the 5 roadmap and 12 objectives. Yes, this covered the issue, include the socio-economic life of the people, and also there is some like foreign investment, union spirit, ethnic effort, service, and human resource development. And Myanmar is next. Yes, our next, please. Yes, next. Myanmar is, as you see, Myanmar is ethnically diverse nation with 135 ethnic groups, but it can be grouped 8 major groups. As you have seen, Kachin, Kaya, we can go Kachin, Kaya, Kayin, Chin, Bama, Mor, Rakhine, Shan. I just show the picture of the ethnic group with their national costume. So beautiful. Yes, I just want to give the floor to my colleague, Daniel.
Yes, so I'm gonna keep it short. So like in Myanmar, like agriculture is the main sector. So it's the main contributor to the economy. So we usually export rice, sesame seed. Now cassava is growing as well. Another biggest contributor is the fishing industry. And now this year, we are going green with the EVs station and EV cars. And the government has impose like zero tariff on these vehicles as well. Another thing is the digital. Currently, we have nearly 55 million population, but we have 73 active SIM card. And over there, like nearly 50% have access to internet, and around 80% of that amount are using smartphones. So there's a lot of opportunities for tech startups as well. And since a lot of big companies such as GrabFood, Foodpanda, Alibaba, fintech companies are coming in, they're educating the general public as well. So that means that the new startups don't need to spend or invest into educating the general public. And since a lot of people are used to using this platform and app already. These are some of the destinations. These are the most popular destination for tourists. Yangon, Bagan, Yangon is the commercial hub. Bagan is the city with over 2,000 temples, which are built through 11th to 13th century. Magui is the untouched area of Myanmar. It is in south. There's over 800 islands around there, and only 5 resorts. In Inle, it's like we call it Little Venice because everything is built on water. Putao is the highest mountain peak at the north of Myanmar. It's very cold there, but there's a lot of adventure you can do, like trekking, rafting, and all those things. And Shan State is where a lot of agriculture products, fresh vegetable, fresh fruit comes from. So, yeah.
Short.
So,
Keep it short.
yeah, I'm gonna keep it short, yeah. So we have a lot of culture and diversity. So we have a lot of traditionals in art, sports, dance, music. I think we performed some dance last night as well. So these are all the lists of Myanmar traditional art. These are the instrument for musical instrument for traditional music. These are traditional dance. We did one of these last night. These are traditional sport. There's cane ball, THANH. Cane ball is where it's called chenlo as well. You kick the ball with the knee and then it doesn't have to drop. And Thai and boxing is the martial art who has been passed from generation to generations over the century. These are the most famous festivals in Myanmar. THANH is the water festival. The Tinju is the festival that is celebrated in October. We play with firework. We light the candle. We pay respect to the elder and pagodas. We have nearly 12 festivals every year, which everyone love it except the employers because there's a lot of holidays. These are some of the most popular food. Mohinga, which is the fish soup mixed with the rice noodle. Lepa is the fermented tea leaf, which is combined with the sesame seeds and other ingredients as well. So these are some of the World Heritage UNESCO places. I'll just go through with the slides so it doesn't take long. So these some of the, this is Bagan.
There are four UNESCO World Heritage Site and four objectives. Now we just show this picture. And some of the places are very tourist attraction.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. You have
you, Judge.
shown us so much about your country. Now everybody is very attracted to come to your country.
Please do visit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, Philippines. Yes, while Philippines group starts the presentation, quick housekeeping. We will be on a tight schedule for next 2 hours. Quick lunch. Lunch is ready after the session. Don't go away now. Immediately after the presentation, quick lunch. Immediately we will go for the parallel session directly. While at lunch, collect your T-shirts. T-shirts are required evening for the tourism purpose and also tomorrow. So collect the T-shirts now, keep it. 3:15 we have to be back in this hall. 3:30 the governor of the state will be here to deliver the concluding address. 4:15, 4:20 we go from here. 5 o'clock the buses will leave. If you come, you will be in the bus. Bus will leave at 5 sharp. Okay? So we will be having a tight schedule. Be ready. Philippines start.
Mabuhay. We are from the Philippines and we are here to tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a god in the form of a large bird who flew across the endless land. And out of love by the gods came a large seed that grew into a giant bamboo. And one day, a voice came calling out, "Great God, let us out." The god in the form of a bird pecked and pecked and pecked. And out of the first half of the bamboo, a man stepped out. He was malakas, which meant strong. From the other half, a woman stepped out and her name was Maganda, which meant beautiful. Together, they became the first Filipinos. This is a story of origins, of a nation worthy of being called the Pearl of the Orient. This is the story of the Philippines.
Every day, the Philippines does more than wait. Putting together new adventures. And experiences for you to try. We're making our sites better for you to see. Cooking up new dishes for you to taste. And preparing cultural discoveries for you to feel. And we're not stopping. Because we know that you deserve more. We can't wait to welcome you.
The Philippines is beautiful, just as it is strong. In its beauty, we find beautiful beaches, ones that we are proud of, just like El Nido in Palawan and Boracay in Aklan. We have rolling mountains seen in the hills of Batanes, or diverse flora and fauna, such as the tarsier and the Philippine eagle. But beyond what we can see, there is a deeper beauty that lies in the diversity of beliefs, our customs, and culture. Things we cannot see, yet they make all the difference. For instance, in contrast to other ASEAN nations, the Philippines is regarded as the only Christian nation in Southeast Asia. But despite the overwhelming number of people who practice the Christian belief, our country is host to a number of other religions as well, like Islam, animism, and more. We have over 120 languages and over 180 ethno-linguistic groups. Imagine that diversity within these islands of ours. We also have a few notable customs. Some of these include gestures of respect to grandparents and older people like the mano, the abundance of food in every social gathering, and our love for singing in karaoke amidst the friendliness and hospitality that you are sure to experience from Filipinos. But what were the influences of our culture?
Prior to even being colonized, peoples in various islands already had well-established cultures and traditions, and had existing trading ties with foreigners. But since the 1500s, the Philippines has been subject to a number of conquests. First, under the Spanish colonial period, which paved the way for different forms of government to be introduced, from a monarchy to a centralized republic. In 1898, the Philippines was ceded to the United States after the Spanish-American War and Filipino-American War, and it served as an American colony until 1946, when it finally gained its independence. But aside from shaping history, culture, traditions, and belief systems, history made Filipinos realize that they are capable of fighting for their independence. Since then, Philippine politics has been marked by power struggles between different parties and factions. In recent years, some factions have been pushing for constitutional reform, allegedly to promote greater democracy and increased political stability within the country, sparking discussions about its timelines and lasting impact. Though the Philippines has been able to make great strides in safeguarding its sovereignty and embracing democracy, its politics still is a complex process that requires a continuous commitment from all stakeholders to ensure long-term prosperity and genuine development.
It is easier to talk about beauty and strength in retrospect, how being colonized over hundreds of years can actually be beautiful, how it has made our people resilient, strong. But during those times, it could have felt hopeless. Today, in the Philippines, only less than 1% of our elementary graduates are actually academically ready for high school. And from that percentage, how much will be ready for collegiate, masteral, doctoral degrees, or simply put, higher education on a global scale? This number is very telling of what kind of economy we are projecting to experience in the future. Definitely predictive of what kind of entrepreneurs we would produce, investors we would attract, and opportunities we would be able to seize. Maybe someday the generation after us would also be able to see beauty and strength. But while we are here, while we can do something, while we can learn with you, we want to be intentional in assuring we are headed to a future that shouts beauty, because it has been undeniably founded in strength. Dialogues like this among the ASEAN countries and India, opportunities to learn as one, initiatives to develop policies with the youth and for the youth are our concrete, albeit small, steps towards that future.
It is in those small steps that we find hope for our country. Currently, the Philippine Constitution establishes a democratic and unitary presidential republic with separation of powers between three branches: an executive branch headed by the president, a bicameral legislative branch with a Senate and a House of Representatives, and a judicial branch, where the Supreme Court is the highest court that serves as the guardian of constitutional rights. Philippine governance is decentralized, with power vested in local government units that are responsible for local, executive, and legislative functions. Meanwhile, the central government provides guidance and coordination in setting policy priorities. In the country's bid to improve policy crafting and program implementation, it is among the youth of today through whom we can spark change. Young Filipinos seek to empower each other through active participation in civic affairs. In the Philippines, we have an elected youth council for every village, and we have delegates, in fact, who are part of their youth councils. We also have local youth development councils and young officials in local assemblies and, for example, myself in the national parliament. Outside government, the Filipino youth also exhibit their strong dedication to their advocacies through various organizations. Finally, we speak about the ambitions of our country, especially now that we are at the crossroads of foreign policy.
Ultimately, what we dream to have in the Philippines is an adaptive, resilient, and pro-Filipino foreign policy that will allow the country to advance its strategic interests, to assert its rights and address issues in the West Philippine Sea, and to become a more significant player in regional and global affairs. As a member of the ASEAN, the Philippines remains committed to strengthening partnerships towards international cooperation in order to promote peace, stability, and development in the region. It is a dream we share with you all, and a dream we will achieve together with both beauty and strength.
So before we go down the stage, one of the things Filipinos are known for is our fund of taking a lot of selfies. So how about having one right now? So encouraging everyone to raise your flags. Raise your flags, please. Okay, get your flags and let's have this selfie.
Try to squeeze. Raise your flags.
Thank you. That was a very unique.
Thank you very much.
presentation.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful presentation. Thank you. And thank you for your very disciplined time management. Thank you. And friends, lunch and 2 o'clock at the parallel session venues. 2 o'clock. No, change only after valedictory. Change, we will have 45 minutes time.